When anyone references Marvel Comics, my mind automatically switches into Spidey Geek mode. I've been a huge Spider-Man fan for as long as I can remember, and I've always enjoyed watching the shows, reading the comics, and especially seeing the movies and playing the video games. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to welcome back everyone's favorite webhead with open arms because game developer Beenox has kindled a fresh new spark for our hero with their last few titles, the latest being the Amazing Spider-Man game, which is in a sense an epilogue to the newly released movie titled under the same name. So coming from one of the biggest Spider-Man fans out there, I present to you my Amazing Spider-Man game review. So as I said, the Amazing Spider-Man game takes place not too long after the events of the film. One night, while Peter and his friend Gwen Stacy are sneaking through Oscorp, things take a turn for the worse when they run into a few cross-species. That's the main focus here in this franchise reboot, the mixing of certain species' genetics to create an entirely new being. Spider-Man is considered to be one of these cross-species and therefore triggers a crazed reaction from the others. This results in several experiments escaping from the Oscorp building and fleeing off into different parts of Manhattan. However, not before they infect several employees, including Gwen. She and the others don't have much time before they start to change, so it's up to our hero to find a way to cure them and defeat all the escaped cross-species before they have a chance to infect anyone else. The story is enjoyable, and great voice acting complements it well. It should take you around 6 to 7 hours to complete on the game's normal difficulty setting, although you can easily extend this time if you're up to the challenge of collecting everything there is in the game, such as trophies/achievements, audio tapes, magazine, character bios, and of course comic book pages which reward you with full-length in-game comics that you can read. There's a whopping total of 700 in all to collect, so if you're worried you won't be able to find any, don't be. After you've collected 500 or so pages, the game actually places the rest of their locations on your minimap for you to see when you get near them. I honestly was a bit skeptical at the beginning when it came to the idea of playing the game before I saw the film, but as a true die-hard Spidey fan, I just could not resist the temptation and ended up giving in. I was surprised to find only one, yes, that's right, only one spoiler in the game's campaign. It wasn't even that big of a deal, so if you're worried about huge potential spoilers, you can rest easy. It has been quite some time since fans were able to freely swing through Manhattan, going about their business and doing whatever they pleased. But Beenox has finally brought it back, and it looks and feels absolutely fantastic. There's just something about free roaming as Spider-Man that just beats out every other competitor. As you dip off a building and wait for just that right moment to shoot your webs and zip back up, you'll feel that sense of immersion set over you. The controller vibrates, giving you a sense of the speed Spider-Man must be traveling at as skyscrapers rush past him while he descends to the ground, only for you to then hear his cries of excitement as he raises himself above the ground just nearly a second too late. It's an incredible feeling, and I feel like Beenox did a spectacular job crafting the game's mechanics to get just that right feeling. While you're out and about getting your swing on and collecting comic book pages, you'll have the option to check out your OzPhone to look for side quests such as petty crimes for you to stop, police deadlocks to handle, race and video challenges to take on, and even police car chases. The latter seems to be, well, honestly, the least impressive of them all. What I mean by that is the game's presentation takes a serious hit when entering these sequences. I can't remember how many times I would hop into the getaway car and start webbing up the windshield, only to notice us turn a corner and start driving straight through, and I mean literally straight through other cars, pedestrians, and objects laid out in the street. It was a bit jarring, to be honest. As I stated in the My Thoughts video I made a while ago, that I wanted Beenox to show as much attention to the side quests as they possibly could to warrant the time I'd be spending on them. They didn't fail me here, however they didn't completely blow me away either. Each time a car chase sequence ends, it always ends the same with Spider-Man webbing up the car in the air and then making some smart aleck comment. It's fun, sure, but it's also repetitive. Thankfully though, as you complete more sequences they begin to evolve and start adding multiple cars for you to stop. However, that doesn't stop the quest from looking and feeling the same as it does with only one car. Free roaming was of course the biggest addition to the game as seen by the fans, however the combat was also put under the microscope for its similarities to that of Batman Arkham City, developed by Rocksteady. The Amazing Spider-Man features a simple dodge and parry mechanic which gives the combat a free-flow sense. While Spider-Man may be taking one thug on head first, another could try and sneak up behind him. This immediately sets off Spider-Man's spider sense, which is indicated by the squiggly flashing lines above an enemy's head. The system works well enough, although at times it seems a bit more challenging to manage than that of Arkham City's mechanics, since the alert isn't as immediate or as large. I've also encountered a few awkward animations here and there, where Spider-Man will start countering an enemy, only to move on to someone else before he finishes. I enjoyed the game's combat system though. I found it entertaining for the most part. Although I just don't understand why the combat mechanics in past Spider-Man titles like Shattered Dimensions were even ever criticized at all. Was it because they lacked depth or inspiration? Come on, be honest with yourselves. This title and the Arkham games used a system that only utilized 2 buttons for the most part, and that's not simplistic? Anyways, I'm not going to dive any further into that subject, seeing as I'll be doing a comparison of The Dark Knight and The Masked Menace another time. During the course of the game, the ability to be stealthy and take out unsuspecting criminals is available to you. It's again a noticeable nod to the Arkham series, but when you know as a Spider-Man fan that Spider-Man would react this way anyways, it's easy enough to overlook the slight copy and paste here. My favorite levels from Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions were the Noir levels, and so I'm actually really glad that some of the same mechanics were implemented here into The Amazing Spider-Man. How you approach enemies and take them out is almost identical, as well as the enemy AI's intelligence. I swear, sometimes it feels like the lights are on but nobody's home. You can be like 5 feet away from a guy who has his back turned away and still pull off a stealth takedown. It's a little ridiculous at times, but oh so ever entertaining. At a first glance, The Amazing Spider-Man's presentation seems pretty solid, sporting some pretty impressive visuals. However, this impression doesn't last long as an old enemy to free roam games rears its ugly head into The Amazing Spider-Man. Pop in! There is some major pop in from afar and unbelievably at close range. I'm not a professional hardcore chief game reviewer, but even I'll say it's pretty sad and a bit unacceptable in this day and age to see so many visual hiccups plague an otherwise fantastic presentation. I mean, sometimes a medical treatment center won't appear on your screen until you're literally right inside of it. It's a bit disappointing and it draws you out of the experience a bit and it reminds you you are indeed playing a video game. The game will also randomly freeze up at times only to fix itself and continue playing. It's a little odd and sometimes annoying. Those are pretty much the only complaints I have with the game's presentation. Some nice touches to the game though are things like Spider-Man greeting people on the streets with a hello and a wave while they take his picture, and nice fluid animations while running up the sides of buildings. You remember those times when you'd be running and an unexpected ledge was pulled out over you, which always sent Spider-Man into an awkward backflip? Well, that's not the case here. As soon as he comes into contact with these areas, Spider-Man will shoot webs and actually lunge himself over the ledge. Now you won't have to worry about getting stuck and the camera spazzing out. Which, surprisingly, that's another thing I wanted to note. The game's camera seemed to be very responsive for me for the majority of the game. That is, except for when I tried playing a level with Sony's PlayStation Move controller and found myself more than frustrated. The controller worked well enough when I tried activating Web Rush, however, I could never get the camera to swing around Spidey just right without it. The game's audio portion is actually fairly solid as well, with Sam Riegel providing his talents as the voice of Spider-Man himself. Other noticeables include voice acting gods Steve Blum, Nolan North, and Yuri Lowenthal. As much as I love these guys, it's getting to the point where their voices are starting to make my head ache. They all give solid performances, however, there's not much difference here in the way they present their voices from the other things they've done. There's not much I can say about the game's music either, except for it's simple but enjoyable, and that's really all I'm looking for in a game. So here's the questions on everyone's mind. Should you buy this game, and is it the best Spider-Man game out there? My answers are yes and possibly. The game is most definitely worth buying if you're simply a crazed Spider-Man fan like myself, and also if you've enjoyed Beenox's last Spider-Man titles up to now. It's simply put, just an all-around fantastic Spider-Man game with a few hiccups here and there, but nothing game-breaking. As for the second question, well, I guess that's entirely up to you and your personal preferences. Honestly, I think I still like Ultimate Spider-Man, and I think it's still my personal favorite just because I enjoyed the comic book feel of the game. And the ability to suck little kids in as venom and, drain them for their energy and watch the little balloon they were holding fly away. But that's just me. That's just me. I know a lot of fanboys out there will never get over Spider-Man 2, and that's okay as long as they continue to support our favorite webhead. But this game definitely puts it all out there on the line and has some impressive moments that hint at what Beenox is capable of doing with the character, which is why I reward The Amazing Spider-Man 4 stars out of 5. Yeah, I'm honestly tempted to rate the game an all-out 5 out of 5, but I see a special opportunity here for Beenox to really shine and take that spark that they've lit and simply set it ablaze.